Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar entitled BISDAK Artists, A Beginner's Guide in Multimedia Arts. I am Jerrald Pagaran, your host and one of your speakers for this event. Now, this webinar will feature various Mindanaoan student artists, hence deriving the word BISDAK, meaning Bisayang Dako. As stated in the title, A Beginner's Guide in Multimedia Arts. The following BISDAK artists will introduce you to the selected different fields in the program of multimedia. The Multimedia Arts program seems to be unfamiliar for many since few schools here in Mindanao offer such program. Others might be constantly asking what opportunities does it have or what exactly does it offer. Worry no more, as speakers for this event, including myself, will guide you, the viewers, and those who are interested, what a glimpse of what multimedia arts is all about. Hailing from the University of Mindanao Matina campus, they will share their knowledge and experiences in the fields of screenplay writing, photography, digital arts, digital illustration, character design, and 3D modeling. But before we proceed, may I present to the audience our e-certificates and what it looks like. So make sure to finish watching this webinar, then click the link in the description to have your e-certificates. And also, we have our own merch for this event. For those who are interested, please don't hesitate to make contact by clicking the link in the description. Now, without further ado, let's start with the presentation of yours truly. How to write a film script, the screenplay format.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. And so, this webinar will be tackling film script and the screenplay format. So, you're here maybe because you're interested on how to write a script or a screenplay, or you wonder what's the difference between a script and a screenplay, and is the screenplay format really a big deal when making films or television shows or writing for something that will be shown on screen. So everything here we will discuss, but before we go to the format and on how you will write your film script and screenplay, we will have an introduction first, and then a definition of a screenplay and a script, and a brief history of how screenplay has evolved throughout the years. So understanding how to write a movie script, also known as screenplay, can seem daunting at first. Yes, this is true. You will be overwhelmed by the information, and you will be conscious of the margins, etc., etc. But once you understand the script format and structure, then you can now focus on your story, on the things that you want to write, on the things that you want to convey. So with this process, hope you can begin writing a screenplay and turn your bright ideas into a professional script. So let us define first what is a screenplay. So a screenplay is a written work for a film, television show, or other moving media that expresses movement, actions, dialogue, and dialogue of characters. So these screenplays are meant on moving media. So where do we see moving media? In films, on television shows, on online series nowadays. So a screenplay is a specific format to distinguish between characters, action lines, and dialogue. Screenplays or scripts are blueprint for a movie. So even though that screenplays and scripts are both blueprint or the foundation of a film or a television show, a screenplay has a specific format. That's what makes it different. So the format of a script and a screenplay is different. So a screenplay can have more definition of what the actors should do and not, what are the limitations of the actors, what are the lines of the actors, and maybe also it is included the camera shots, etc., etc. So there you have it. The difference between screenplays and scripts is that screenplay has a specific format to follow. So I hope that's clear. And now we have an example of a screenplay written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. So it is entitled Good Will Hunting, a 1997 film. So as you can see, you have your title page where uh, the writers and is written, and on the right side you can see the specific format of a screenplay, an example of a screenplay. So now let's go to the brief history of a screenplay. So you might be wondering who started it all, who who structured the screenplay, who was the father of creating screenplay and the basis of what we are having now, of the modern screenplay. So, what is widely considered the earliest example of modern script was written by George Méliès in 1902, a film, A Trip to the Moon. The silent film, groundbreaking for its originality and specific special effects, was also important for its transformative use of story. While loading the gun and splashing into the open sea were descriptors that provide simple information about each scene. So as you can see, as we have defined screenplay, um, there are descriptors, there are distinguished lines on how actors or specific things inside the film should be, on what should happen. So this was 1902, and we all know that films in this era are more on farce, more on actions, etc. So this was the very first film to showcase a list of things that needs to be shot or needs to be done during the whole duration of the film. So now there you have it, the format of A Trip to the Moon and its screenplay. So it's just one-liners, um, composed of 30 lines. So it's just very direct and very straight to the point. So loading the gun. Astronomers, scientists enter the shell. Monster gun. March past the gunners. Fire. Saluting flag. So it's just brief. It's just straight to the point again. And very understandable on what to expect. So as you can see, the screenplay of A Trip to the Moon is very direct, very straight to the point, but it is also very vague. So it can also mean a lot of interpretations. It can also mean um, it can also vary. So there's a loop right here, even though that it's very brief. It's very it's so vague that there are many possibilities that could happen. So when filmmakers started moving the camera in middle of the scenes in order to get different angles and sized shots, the cost of production became more expensive. This prompted the studios to pioneer screenplays that became known as continuities. Continuities contained important information directing what shots were to be used, anticipating continuity issues, and accompanying labor, location, and set requirements. So as the cost of production became more expensive and the film industry is starting to get on demand, there is somewhat of a need to organize and have a specific direction when making films, because when making film, anything could happen and anything could possibly um, uh, go the other way around. So it's very helpful to have a specific target uh, to lessen maybe the cost of the production. They have a written guide on what to follow uh, in the whole process of the filmmaking. So at 12 minutes, Edwin Porter's 1903 is just 1 year later after uh, a trip to the moon. The film Great Train Robbery, The Great Train Robbery, was the evidence of a trend that was sure to continue, known for its use of the master scene format. Its script provided a structure for scenes versus the scriptors for a series of cuts. Now, this a format that they used now is called the master scene format, and it is now being used, though it has evolved from from the beginning. But this film, The Great Train Robbery, has a solid format that was the basis of what we are using right now. And this is a clear example of, of an evidence that it continued on what they have started. It came a long way, and it has evolved now in writing a screenplay. So now it's time we proceed on how to write a screenplay format. So there's a quote: screenplay format is relatively simple, but it's one of those things that can seem a bit daunting until you've learned how to do it. Again, I've said this a while ago that screenplay can be confusing at first, but once you had the rhythm, you already knew what to do, etc., etc. It will just be easy, and you can now focus on your creativity. You can now focus on your story. So here are the elements of a screenplay. So first, of course, it's title page, the scene heading, subheading, transitions, character introductions, action, dialogue, extensions, parenthetical, and camera shots. So here are the basics of script formatting that a aspiring screenplay writer needs to follow. A 12-point career font size, a 1.5-inch margin on the left of the page, 1-inch margin on the right side of the page, 1 inch on the top and the bottom of the page. Each page should have approximately 55 lines. The dialogue block starts 2.5 inches from left side of the page. Character names must have uppercase letters and be positioned starting 3.7 inches from the left side of the page. Page numbers are positioned in the top right corner with a 0.5-inch margin from the top of the page. The first page shall not be numbered, and each number is followed by a period. I know this can be confusing for first-timers, and it's understandable. It can be overwhelming, but uh, just follow, just follow through, and so we will understand uh, slowly on, uh, and you will familiarize the format of a screenplay. So next, there you have an example of a title page, as you can see on your left, and what's inside and the format of a screenplay. So there you have a scene heading, action, character, dialogue. intercut, the subheader, the fade in, the scene number, transitions, extension, parenthetical, and shot. So now let us proceed to the title page. So a title page is somewhat interesting and uh, the opener of your screenplay. So as you can see in your title page, there you have your title and your film production and who are involved in making the film. Or you can just put the screenplay writer uh, in the title page. But with this example, it was a group effort, so it was there are plenty of people here written. And also, you shouldn't be scared in putting your work out there, your number, your address, your contacts, because this is your work. This is something that you worked for and you want to be recognized on what you did and all your effort and all your creativity. So be proud of uh, what you put on your title page about the information because you deserved it, because you worked hard for it. So that's all about the title page. And the next is the scene heading. So in scene heading, there is a help to break up physical spaces and give the reader and the production team an idea of the story's geography. So you will either enter INT for interior spaces or EXT dot for exterior spaces. Then you can now describe the setting and then with a dash and then the time of the day. So when you read this in the example EXT, suburban home, and the night, then you have a clear picture of what uh, what the setting is all about, or where do you want to shoot, or what time. So now the production team now has an idea of 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 the geography of where should they shoot this scene because of the description you made. And also, some scripts take all place around the world, so often screenwriters will use multiple hyphens to give scene headings even more detail. So this helps the screenwriter having to point out a geographical location in action lines, saying space to write more on the actual story, keep not formatting. So next, we have the subheading. Since we have the scene heading, we also have a subheading. In the subheading, often writers will use subheadings to show a change in location without breaking the scene. Even if the scene has shifted from interior to exterior, it is assumed that the readers will understand the change in space while retaining the idea that the time of the day is the same and even continuous. So, with the help of subheading, it is not necessary for the screenwriter to put exterior, interior in every movement of the character or the scene because through subheading, the reader and the production team will realize that uh, they have they are in the same scene, uh, even though that they are changing locations, they are still in the same scene. So subheading enables you to uh, comprehend or to analyze that it's still the same scene, but uh, the character, it may be, is changing space, maybe from inside to outside. So you can use subheading for that in order to avoid um, writing again an exterior and then interior again. So instead of doing that, you can use a subheading to justify the action or the setting of the character, where is the character. And the next is transitions. So in the bottom right of the page, you will place transitions. But in modern screenwriting, this seems to be used less and less. The transitions that seems to have really stood the test of the time are cut to and fade to. I also see this from other screenplay writers who don't necessarily use cut to or transitions. But as professional, as standard, transitions really still matter. But for some who have been in the industry, they don't necessarily use transitions now because already um it's already clarified, or it's already obvious that it is transitions. But as beginners, um, as the standard of the industry, uh, a transition still is a must to use when writing our screenplays. So as you can see, cut to or fade out to, so dissolve to, these are just few transitions that we can use within our screenplays. So now next is we have our character introduction. So when you introduce a character in a screenplay, you want to use all capital letters for the name of the character, then a reference of their age, and finally some information about traits and personality. So again, screenwriters have found other ways to do this, but this is the most common and the production-friendly way to introduce a character. So this is standard, and um, again, when the name of the character is will be written in the script, it should be in all capital letters for it to be distinguished that uh, it's a name, it's a character. It's not just an action word or a dialogue. It's not part of the dialogue, etc., etc. It is the name of the character, in order for it to pop up. So again, keep in mind that a character should be in all caps. And the next is action. Action lines are where you describe the visual and audible actions that take place on screen. You want to write on third person in present tense. So often you can make your script a better read by eliminating redundant pronouns and conjunctions. Big sounds and important objects can be written in all caps to emphasize their effect on the story. So as you can see, we hear in a resounding thud. So a thud is an indication that uh, while filming or in the filmmaking, there should be a sound effect uh, as it is written in the script. And also, um, in the action, it defines what the character is doing. So it's called action lines, where um, whether the character is walking along the streets or um, is running very whether the character is running fast. So these are called the action lines. These define the characters of what the character is doing. So now the readers and the production team can now visualize of uh, what the character is doing through the action lines. Next is a dialogue. So your lines of dialogue will be set underneath the character to which they are assigned. Dialogue is pretty straightforward from a formatting standpoint, but it is mostly difficult part in screenwriting. So even though that uh, what you can see in the dialogue seems to be easy, or um, uh, it is easily recognized upon seeing a screenplay, an example screenplay, but uh, it's the most difficult part in screenwriting because you would think about the character and not just you, because you are building a character when making dialogues, and whatever is said in the dialogue should be reflective of the character, of the intentions, uh, of the point of view of the character. So extensions. These occur when a character says something off screen or a dialogue or a voiceover. You will see extensions when a character ends a block of a dialogue, performs an action, and speaks more. So again, extensions are just said when something is indicated or VO or something is uh, it put into a parenthesis. That's an extension. So that means that it shouldn't be uh, done during the filming. It should be an off-screen dialogue or an off-screen work for the production team. It shouldn't be included during the filming. So if you want your character, for example, to be talking to him or herself, then you should indicate that it's just a voiceover. So so that the readers or the production team won't recognize it as something that needs to be filmed, but uh, they will recognize that it's just an extension, that it's just a voiceover. So next, parenthetical. In the parenthetical, you can use a parenthetical inside your dialogue to show small actions or even change in mood without having to jump out to an action line. So again, just like the extensions, you can have um, some more of a defining moment or definition on your dialogue, so that it won't be it won't change the the whole idea of the script or etc. It adds more, or it enhances the script or the dialogue of your character. So that's the use of the parenthetical. And also, parentheticals are really good for directing actors and adding sarcasm and nuance to performances on the page. But you may want to be cautious about adding them too much. Actors are professionals, and if all Al Pacino finds parentheticals is in a script, he may get his feelings hurt. So, parentheticals also has its perks, also has its advantages, but it shouldn't be too much because you want your actors to be uh, to explore, or you want the production team or your actors to explore the script, to expand on what's in the script, and and putting parenthetical seems like a manipulative move as a screenwriter or as a filmmaker, that you want it to be shown. So if it's too much with parentheticals, it's a big no, or it's disappointing if that will happen. So parentheticals are good, but it should be moderate. And the next is the last are camera shots. So camera shots, the best professional screenwriters know how to suggest shots without writing in shots. But if you really insist on describing a particular shot in your screenplay, you can format it like a subheading. So as you can see in here, it is written like a subheading. So the scene heading is interior, suburban home, kitchen night. As Filbert comes around the corner, distracted by his fantasy, bumps into the wall, his favorite ball slips from his hand. So this is an action line. So Filbert, the character, is moving. But, and as you can see, Filbert is not capitalized, meaning it's not character. It's not about Filbert. The Filbert here uh, describes what Filbert is doing. It's not something that, uh, because once you capitalize the character, the name of the character, it means that it's a line. It's a dialogue. And again, in the camera shots, it uses the format of a subheading. So Filbert's POV in slow motion. So the ball tumbles down the stairs. We hear each echo of each bounce as it travels down the steps. So if you want to be specific with your camera shots, then you can do it. With the format of like subheading, you need to be if you want to express and you want to, as a screenwriter, you want to capture that moment on whatever camera shot that's in your mind, then you can do it. And also, this let us know that the shot is supposed to be set so that we see things from Filbert's perspective. Writing out shots is often frowned upon, but if you're directing the film, maybe do it sparingly. Um, because there is a difference between a screenwriter and the director. So if the director and the writer are two different people, let let the two do its job. So if you're a screenwriter, you write about the script, you worry about the script, the dialogue, the action lines, etc., etc., and you give the camera shots to the director. You, as a screenwriter, you trust the director on how he or she, on how the director will carry the whole film with regarding the camera shots, angles, etc. As you can though you can suggest camera shots within the script, but it's disrespecting for the director if the director and the scriptwriter are different people. But if you're the writer and the director, then it's fine to have camera shots. So here are my personal screenplay output throughout the years. So first is Unseen 2019, written and directed by Jerrald Pagaran, yours truly, and classmate and colleague Kim Joshua Matildo. This film is an official entry for the University of Mindanao Film Festival 2019. It won the Best Screenplay and Best Poster. But what's intriguing with this Best Screenplay award is that we really don't have a screenplay in this film. We only have something that was written, um, just like what in the film of A Trip to the Moon has. It's just one-liners, and it has dialogues. So let me show you our script, uh, or our screenplay. It can't be called a screenplay. It's a script because it is not format. It is not formatted uh, as a screenplay. So here are our script for Unseen 2019. So I stand corrected that this is a script and not a screenplay. So as you can see, it's very vague and it's unorganized. Though you can see scene 1 house, um, scene 2 jeep, scenery jeep, uh, and all other action lines that uh, needs to be shot or needs to be in the film. This was the time when we were experimenting, etc., and we were uh, this was our introduction to filmmaking, and we don't know anything about screenplay writing. We just had the idea. We had a script. This is a script. This is an example of a script. This is not a screenplay because it's not organized. It's not written in a certain format like a screenplay. So again, I stand corrected that this is just a script. But we had the idea, we had dialogues, we had a vision, but it wasn't written in a format that you can see something as a screenplay. But what happened in Unseen 2019 is that in uh, UMFF 2019 is that we they don't necessarily uh, give us, or they did not require us to have a screenplay. maybe the basis of winning the best screenplay in this is that the uniqueness of the story, the the twist and the plot of the characters, of the antagonists, of how the story has progressed and its ending. So I think that's the basis of uh, uh, Unseen winning best screenplay is its script. Again, it it didn't have a screenplay. We didn't have a screenplay. It was not written in a screenplay format. This is a script, but again, it won a best screenplay award. The film won best screenplay award. Still, in the next project is Chaa 2020, directed by Army Pugoy and written by Jerrald Pagaran, yours truly. And this is a final exam output examination uh, from our film subject, school year 2019-2020. And so this is what you call a screenplay. This is uh, in a screenplay format. So there you have our title page with the production uh, and the information in the bottom right corner. And as you can see, there you have the scene heading, all the action lines, the transitions, and all the hyphens, and the dialogues are written in here. Oh, I see an error in this screenplay is that the characters should be written in all capital letters. So I stand corrected. The characters should be written in all capital letters. And there you have it, the dialogues and the scene headings and the transitions. And as you can see, the end. So um, this screenplay is almost perfect, though we don't have like awards for this one. But this is a near perfect screenplay output for me. And this is quite an achievement because, again, writing a screenplay is quite daunting at first. It it confuses you. It makes you overwhelmed. It makes you feel overwhelmed on what the things to focus, etc., etc. But this is a good start of of my screenplay writing. And so that was the end of presentation. So thank you again for attending this webinar. I hope that you learned something with the discussion and now start writing your best screenplay with this script. So thank you very much for your time.
Now that was my presentation about how to write a screenplay, and I hope our listeners will now start writing because who knows, your idea could be the next big thing. From one field of multimedia to another, Joshua Roque will introduce us to indoor photography.
One. So, good day everyone, and welcome to our webinar entitled Better Indoor Photography. So, before anything else, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Joshua Roque, and I am a student of a Bachelor of Arts in Multimedia Arts. So, in this webinar, we will talk about 5 tips for a better indoor photography. As as we all know, in this time of pandemic, most of us are into photography what and most of us also do indoor photography because of the restrictions that the government in different places do. Most of us are fall into indoor photography. So here are 5 tips for a better indoor photography. So first is play with natural light. To start, try to focus on existing light and the way they cast within your indoor space. Sometimes it's just a matter of redirecting it, and sometimes it's a question of timing. Besides sunlight, another form of natural light that can help you get creative is fire. I have a lit entire photo set with firewood in the fireplace or candle. Though they provide a little light and cast a very warm balance, they provide a unique sparkle. And turn off any artificial light and move around your home, studying how sunlight falls through the windows in different rooms throughout the day by shifting your location and planning your shoot to coincide with golden hour or blue hour. You have more control over the final image. So to start is we have to study the light in our house because light is one of the most important aspect when it comes to photography. A good lighting can provide a good image, and a bad lighting can make the image bad. So next is take some test shots around the house. As you study the light in different rooms, snap some photos to see how it looks on camera. Wherever I'm shooting, I always take scouting photos of the space with just the existing light and my subject for reference. This scouting shoot will give you a sense of color balance, the ambient light, and how the light looks on the subject. So after checking for the lights is next is scouting around your house. This is very important because by scouting you can discover a lot of different things, and also it can make you flexible around the house. So next is using a tripod. For my indoor still life photography, I use a camera, reflectors, gloves, and a tool to blow off dust and objects I use. And finally, a tripod. For starter, a tripod keeps things simple and gives you freedom to experiment and move things with your hands. Plus, if you need to shoot a low shutter speed, for example, in the evening, then you simply can't do without a tripod. If you don't have tripod, you can make it work by using a stack of books or finding something to lean on. It can be easy to get underexposed photos when shooting indoors, but a longer exposure will let you more light in your camera, so don't lose detail. So one of the very important tool when it comes to photography is a tripod. It is not it is not just important when it comes to indoor photography, but I think in most kind of photography basically a tripod is a steady tool that can be used in any given scenario, especially in indoor photography. So having invest in a good tripod is a plus. So next is get creative with the backgrounds. If your walls are plain like mine, and if you don't want a different type of background, but you don't have studio backdrops, you can just use what you find home. Fabrics, curtains, or even bed sheets can work. Hang them up on your wall next to a window or even in front of the window if you like a backlight. Experiment with it and see what you like. So next is background, and background is also important in the composition of the image. A good background can highlight your subject and give more sense and give more story to your picture. And next is and finally start small. To photographers facing space limitation, I would encourage them to experiment with and embrace a change of scale, photographing individual items, people separately, and composing them together, or shooting miniatures and enlarging them in post-production are both approaches to playing with scale. Later, these skills will become part of your creative problem-solving tool belt that you use outside of your home as well. Even large budget feature film rely on the miniatures to fulfill your shots where are logistical limitation. The Dark Knight used small-scale Batmobile for chase scene comes to mind. You may not able to find fit the outside world in your home, but you can shrink them a little bit. Complicated concepts start become more feasible and suddenly start to create new world rather than a system side of them. So finally, this start small is we can use some miniatures if we want to portray the outside world like buildings or cars, and with this, it can also be a good arsenal in our indoor photography. So I think that's all, and Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roque, for introducing us to indoor photography. And now, we proceed to another field of multimedia, the digital arts. We have two speakers regarding this topic, but our first speaker is Miss Aera Elaine C. Abella. She will talk about on how to improve your digital art skills, especially for beginners.
Hello! So, we're gonna be talking about how to improve your digital art skills for beginners. So, what is digital art? Well, digital art is an artistic work or practice that uses digital technology as part of the creative or presentation process. There are different jobs in digital art. So, interaction design, you can work on web, mobile, VR, Internet of Things like ang job sky infographics, illustrator, user experience designer, things like that. So motion design, you can work on TV, web, film, or film corporate. Like ang job sky 3D animator, modeler, videographer, motion graphics designer, things like that. Visual development, ang mga jobs kay sa games, animation, editorial, retail, comic, infographics. Ang mga jobs kay character designer, environment prop designer, concept, and production artist. Storyboard artist, illustrator. Sa 3D game art, ang mga jobs kay concept artist, modeler, character animator, art director, interface graphic designer. Sa 2D animations, ang mga jobs kay storyboard artist, character designer, animator, color effects artist, and sound designer. So we're gonna be talking about sa visual development kasi I specialize in digital art. I mean my personal art skill is under the visual development. So the thing about digital art is because there are a lot of jobs under digital art, you need to know what your preferred digital art skill is going to be. Like if you specialize in video editing, then you need to learn things about that. Like editing photos, you need to learn the skills for that. My skills is under digital illustration, paintings, animations, kana. So how to improve your digital illustration in easy steps. First thing is list your strengths and weaknesses. Like for example, my strength is I'm creative. I like colorful art. I like the realistic style. My weaknesses are I'm a slow painter. Art is often dark, choppy, brush quality. You need to know, dapat ilista mo for you to know your weaknesses and make your weaknesses your strengths. So the second one is determine your old habits. So knowing your weaknesses by realizing your bad habits is like pointing them out so you can specify what are the things that you're bad at so you can improve it for the better. Third is target your creative goals. Know what your creative goal is. Try things one at a time. Like if you want to improve your lines, body positions, and lighting, you should learn on that. Number four is learn strategy from process videos. There are a lot of videos all over the web, like on YouTube, on Facebook, you're in Instagram. Learn from these videos. So, kasi other artists has secrets in them and you can learn from these secrets by making it your own. You can learn from it. The fourth Um, the fifth is develop ideas efficiently. It's better to draw whatever it is on your mind, and if you can't, you can always write words, random words, and ideas will come flowing into you. And if ideas don't, well, here comes number six. Cheat composition with photo manipulations. As you can see, there are three photos here, and it was mashed up into this photo. You can use this as an art reference if you can't think of any ideas. Improve line art and sketch quality. Sa digital art, you have to learn Photoshop kasi when you do Photoshop, you can start with a rough sketch sa isa ka layer. Then you can lower the opacity on that layer and then create another layer. Then you can do the line art that you want until you're satisfied with the look of the line art on that layer. That is one another way for you to improve your line art and sketch quality. For number 8, we have work on speed. Why? Because time is money, and digital art as aren't really as pricey as other artworks that like painting, oil, acrylic, or sketch personally. Digital art are actually priced at $5 or $100, depends on the quality of work that you put on it. So you need to have speed on it to also develop muscle memory and test drive your sketch before committing to the paint. It can be very discouraging at the beginning, but it'll all pass with proper training and your determination to improve. Number 9 is study small details. Even when you're done on speed, you still need to make it better, and to do that, you have to experiment on what works for you. Like, for example, ang brush na ginagamit nimo is dili siya mo work for detail, you can watch another video to see how they do it. Paano ginawa yung detail, then learn from it. You can actually also develop your own skill from this. Number 10 is develop your painting formula. You need to know what to do sa beginning before you start. That's the self-assessment you did. Alam mo na kung ano yung kailangan mong i-need na i-improve, what you need to do, and what you don't need. And you also need to know what to do during the painting. Like you've actually already processed what you've studied in all those videos. You also need to know what to do to complete it, like the final tweaks and adjustments that you need to do on the art. Here are some of my works. So as you can see, my line art isn't really that good. But when it comes to these artworks, my line arts have improved quite a bit with practice. Practice. I know you hear this a lot, but practice is very important to develop muscle memory and to not forget the things that you've learned. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Elaine, for that wonderful presentation of yours. I hope that our listeners can now improve their digital art skills, especially those who are at the beginning stage. Our next speaker, again, in the topic of digital arts, is Emegen G. Barba. She will talk about a beginner's guide in digital painting.
Good day, everyone. I'm Emegen G. Barba. Welcome to this webinar, and the topic that I'm going to discuss is entitled Experience Digital Painting, a Beginner's Guide. So next. What is digital painting? So basically, digital painting is a method of creating an art object digitally. Digital painting adapts traditional painting medium such as acrylic paint, oils, ink, watercolor, and etc., which means all digital painting programs try to mimic the use of physical media through various brushes and paint effects. Next is my ultimate beginner's guide in digital painting. So, um, reasons to draw digitally. Personally, just like some other artists, I turned to digital painting since it is cheaper because you only need few tools and it is good to go. Plus, it is a lot easier to get into digital painting now since computers are so much faster and more powerful. Also, the brushes, colors, effects, and other tools are unlimited to use. Unlike traditional, it is limited and costly. Before you start digital painting, the question is, what tools do I need to get started with digital painting? First is digital painting software. Every artist have their own preferred software to use. Some of these programs are totally free, others cost quite a bit. Here are some examples: Photoshop, CorelDRAW, Autodesk Sketchbook, Krita, Medibang. And personally, I mainly use Photoshop. The second one is pen tablet. Pen tablets made it easier for artists to digitalize their work and are more accurate than mouse keyboard input, which also provides extra functionality and features. Some examples of this are Wacom, Huion, and XP Pen. As for me, I used Huion. But once you've got some digital painting software and a drawing tablet, you are good to go. Next is the things to remember. First is choose your preferred hardware and software. It is a lot way easier to choose the best thing that works for you. There is no need to use complicated software. You also need to understand the tools and software you use. Specif- Specifically, its features and functionality. Next is search for references. Of course, searching for references is very helpful, especially for beginners, and somewhat um, guide on how to do it and motivate them to practice digital painting. Another one is use layers to keep different elements of your painting separate. You can have a layer for the sketch, a layer for the line art, a layer for the color, for shadows, for special effects, and for details. Some artists prefer to use few layers and some use multiple layers. Next one is choose your brushes. Brushes come in all shapes, sizes, and textures. You can try them all out to see how they work since um, brushes are brushes are hugely important to the outcome of your digital painting. Also, you can download it on the internet because there are some free brushes there. Instead of asking which brush should I use, but rather try asking yourself, what am I trying to paint? The answer to this question will guide you in selecting the right brushes for all your digital paintings. Also, if you want a particular effect, there is a brush out there that can make it happen. Another one, study the colors. Studying the colors means you need to understand them through the concepts of hue, saturation, brightness, and value. Understanding it, why, and how certain colors work. Next is get familiar to shading with dark tones, highlights, and midtones. It is very important to know and understand putting together the shadows, highlights, and midtones. Combining these three makes your work look more realistic, recognizing light to dark. And last but not the least is practice, practice, practice. No one becomes good at making digital painting if they did not continuously practice. So these are some sample brush strokes that I've downloaded on the internet. However, some artists prefer many different brushes while others only use a handful. So this is from others' work. This is an example on how digital painting should be done. If you want to paint people, look at natural color palettes or with more natural tones for the skin. The realistic depiction of skin tone requires more than using varying shades of brown. You can also take color samples from photos to get a good naturalistic color palette. So here are some of my digital painting. As for me, I take time to practice since I need to improve. And I want to achieve the desired outcome to my digital painting. Since every beginners have more rooms for improvements, and just don't be discouraged about not getting the results that you want. It's a matter of experimentation to achieve it since digital painting techniques take time and practice to master it. The process or step by step in making digital painting is not as easy as it seems. It went through a lot before it got to that point. Just as Martha Graham said, learn by practice. As with any new skill, especially artistic ones, be patient with yourself and continue to make an effort to improve, even when it seems like you can't make progression fixing a problem. There are so many options out there to help you out and allow you to express yourself artistically. Along the way, you can develop or make your own art style. Just explore and see for yourself. Thank you for listening to my webinar presentation, and I hope you learn something from a beginner's perspective and get inspired to make digital painting. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Emegen Barba, for your wonderful presentation. After the digital arts, we will now proceed to digital illustration. Again, we have two speakers for this topic, and our first speaker will be Kersteen Leynes. She will talk about a guide to digital illustration.
Good day everyone. Welcome to my part of the webinar, and in this session, I will be talking about digital illustration, what it is, how it works, and I will be also sharing to you my own experience in learning this specific field in multimedia arts. By the way, I am Jayne Leynes, and I am a third-year Bachelor of Multimedia Arts student in the University of Mindanao. So what is digital illustration? Digital illustration, also known as computer illustration, is the process of using digital tools to create images with the complete manipulation of the artist, usually through a pointing device such as a tablet or a mouse. Basing on my experience, digital illustration has the same process as traditional art. The only difference is the tools that are used. So traditional art is done with the use of paper or canvas, pencil, crayons, paint, etc. While digital illustration with the use with the name itself is done with the use of digital gadgets like computers and tablets. Next, we have the types of digital illustration. There are actually a lot of them, so I'm just going to name a few that are popular. First, we have anime. As we all know, anime is a type of art style which originates in Japan. It is short for animation, which is characterized by colorful graphics. It is the most popular type of illustration because not only it is a still image, but it is popularized at it is also known as a motion picture. Caricatures, it is an art style done by imitating a real person and exaggerating their looks to make the output look cartoonish and real at the same time. Next, vector graphics. Vector graphics are made up of shapes, colors put together to form an output. Now, in vector portrait, vector artists also has their own style in doing it. So, if you're interested in this type of illustration, you can make your own style on this one. Lastly, we have realism. From the name itself, is a realistic form of illustration which depicts characters accurately as to how they're supposed to look. This type of illustration takes longer to finish compared to others since you need to pay more attention to the details on this one. So how to become a digital illustrator? So before I became a digital illustrator, I started out as a traditional artist. I learned drawing at an early age, so I already have that much knowledge in drawing. So when I decided to switch into the digital field, coming up of my own art style was the most challenging part. So I am going to discuss my own steps in becoming an illustrator. So the first step is start drawing. Of course, this is the most necessary part. The thing is, if you're really passionate about something, you will really take time to learn about it. This type is only necessary for those who don't have any experience in drawing yet. Since I have only limited time, I can only give you advices and tips. So, first is to learn the basics. As a beginner, it is essential to first learn the basic. You will really need to take time to practice everything step by step. Next is explore different art styles. Learning different art style was also one of the ways on how I improved my skills. This is where I discover which style I'm really good at or which I enjoy drawing. All in all, it is a way to enhance your skills in drawing. So lastly, don't stop practicing. This is a really important piece of advice when it comes to drawing. Just keep drawing for improvement, that's all. So once you know you've improved, it's time to come up of your own art style. The purpose of having your own art style is that it signifies our identity as an artist. When people will come to look at your art, they will recognize that it's yours. So, how do you come up with your own art style? One tip that I will give you is to combine different art style from different artists, which means you will get the inspiration of the artists that fascinates you. For example, on this one, vector graphics is combined with realism, and you get the realistic type of vector portrait. Now I will show you where I got my inspiration on my own art style. So what I did was combine Disney and the art style of my favorite Instagram artist, which is Tasha. I love Disney and I grew up watching everything on their channel. So what I did was copy the way the facial features are drawn, while I took the other art style as an inspiration for the flow of my artwork, its aesthetic and colors and strokes. When it comes to creating an art style, you must also choose the brush you like, um, which you think that suits the flow of your work and everything. You can either choose from the preset brushes that are available on your software that you use, or you can make your own. Lastly, we have softwares that you are going to use. There are various softwares in which you can do digital illustration, but these ones here are the most recommended. So we have Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Paint Toolsai, and Procreate. Among these four, I mainly use Procreate. For me, it's just the best one there is. I had a great experience using this application. However, it is only available on digital tablets like iPad. So, for computers, according to my research, Paint Toolsai is the most recommended since it has simple interface and easy to use tools. It is lightweight painting software but can already produce high quality illustration. Excuse me. And the last step is to improve. That's it. Because to be a good illustrator is to stick to your own art style. Avoid comparing your works with other artists and just keep improving your own. In that way, people will know you for your own unique style. So that's it for this session. Thank you so much for attending. I hope you guys learned something from me. Once again, good day and please be safe.
Thank you very much, Miss Kersteen Leynes, for that very amazing presentation of yours. And now let us proceed to our second speaker for digital illustration still. Irma Jayne Alisbo will talk about modern illustrations, creating an effective vector posters.
Hi everyone, welcome to my multimedia webinar. I am Irma Jayne Alisbo and I am currently a multimedia student artist from the University of Mindanao. So the topic that I'm going to discuss is about modern illustrations and creating an effective vector poster. So to start off, I have here the first question, which is about what is a poster? So basically, poster is usually a large printed sheet that often contains pictures and is posted in public places. And another definition is a poster is a temporary promotion of an idea, product, or event to put up in public spaces for mass consumption. So basically, posters are known to be posted in big places such as plazas or malls or even in specific town areas. So posters are basically made. It's because a certain event is going to happen, or let's say a movie is going to come out in a certain date. So in order to tell the public that there is something that they should look forward to, an interesting and brilliant stories created by filmmakers or certain artists. So next is what is a vector? So basically the topic that I choose is about vector posters. So one thing that I'm going to discuss is about what is a vector basically. So vector is an artwork. It's basically an art that's made up of vector graphics. And these graphics are points, lines, curves, and shapes that are based on mathematical formulas. So if you're going to create like graphic images on Adobe Illustrator, you can actually call it as a vector art. And if at some point you're going to use like inorganic shapes so that you could create more flow and different or more spontaneous shape in your artwork, then you have to rasterize it, and then it's going to be called as a vexel art. So basically, those were basic informations of what vector and vexel art is. So posters are widely used in different fields or different genres. So as what I have mentioned, they're commonly seen in movie or in launching music or events or even businesses. So in the past, they commonly use posters with photographs or just often pure text and then just in different sizes. But in the present times, or maybe like few years ago, people tend to use vector graphics. So there are certain vector posters, and what we have here on the screen are also few posters that are made up of vectors. So basically a movie poster, music posters, or even in food businesses. So yeah, you can actually see vector posters in these certain fields or certain genres. So content essentials. There are actually a lot of things that you need to remember when you're going to create posters, but these are, I think, few things that I wanted to remember. So the technicalities like knowing the sizes, your target audiences, and at the same time following the instructions of your client's demands, or having being able to study the content of your posters, and so that when it's time to showcase it, it will go well on the launching event. So it's important to know the format of your poster and at the same time where you're going to publicly post it. So how to actually get started? So these questions are very common for artists and designers, that what is an effective way to get started in creating certain outputs or in posters. So these are the guides that I commonly used, that I got from the internet, and some I just do with myself in creating outputs and posters. So first is to identify the goal of your poster. It's very important so that you would know what you wanted your output would be in the end, and you would have a big picture of what your poster is all about. And setting up your mood board is very important as well, so that it would keep you on the flow or on track while creating those certain posters. And next is collecting basic information or details. So even though you're really in the zone to create creative posters or vector styles and any other creative stuff, it's important to collect basic informations and details on that movie or certain music, or what's going to happen in that event in that business. Next is the sketch or outline. So it's like a foundation of uh, the output that you're going to create. So for example, if you're going to create vector posters, then it's important to sketch on what you wanted to portray. Would it be focus on the character, or do you want just purely text, and how do you want it to be? Is it going to be simple? Is it going to be grand, funky, or it's up to you. So it's important to have the basic sketches, and so that it could be a guide for you to create your poster and other works as well. Decide where you want to share your poster. So aside from you creating and having everything set up, so you must learn also if who are going to watch or who are going to look to your poster. So it's important to know that it fits well in what you're creating or what mediums you're going to use, so that on the day that you're going to launch and produce it, it's just go well, and um, everything's just going to be okay when it's time to publicly showcase it. Pick a relevant or branded color scheme. So yes, it's important to choose your color. You have to check that it matches well with your contents, and at the same time, it's not that bright, or it's not that something that is very displeasing to the eye of the viewers, because it's very important to attract them, and colors play a big part. So it's important to really pick a relevant and also beautiful colors that matches your content and your output. Use varied fonts to create visual hierarchy. So there are very much wide options when it comes to fonts. You can just download it in the internet or you can create on your own. So there are a lot of styles nowadays, whether it's gonna be the usual ones, um, like the new, type Times New Roman, and you also have the bold ones, cursive ones, or just a very raw type of text. So it's important to use also different fonts, but at the same time, if you can just minimize it to at least two or just one font, that would be fine as long as it's readable and it fits to the concept of your poster. Next is to use high quality images and stock photos. So it's important to really use high quality images because first and foremost, it's like a one-time big shot that you're going to showcase your poster. So you just have to give it all. The best text, the best color, and then the best photos as well. Download and export it in the right format. So yeah, um, well, there are a lot of practice time, or you could just trial and error in your process duration. But in your final output, it's important to really export it in the right format or in a great resolution so that um, when it it's needed to be modified or to be shown in other platforms, so the photos or the poster itself won't actually be the quality won't be degraded. And lastly is just to start making. So even though you have all these processes that you prepared or this routine that you have, you must not forget to actually um, tell yourself to just start making even though you're not sure of what you wanted to do with your poster and your output. You have to make a move because um, at some point it will help you along the way when you're going to create your posters and output. So even though you're not quite sure, but as long as you get what you just need, then you just have to start making. And do not confine yourself in genres, according to Sir Gito de Guzman. So it's important to know what you wanted to have or to get, or to really know your style. But you can always explore in different things. So on depends on the client or the audience's demand or the theme that was given to you in that certain output and in that certain poster. So try to explore and just give it a go. You might as well find yourself indulging in that certain style or in that certain work concept. So the work and process. So basically, these are just my few of my works. So this is the first um, output that I had. So how we come up with it is we discussed on what colors we're going to make, what vibe we wanted to let our viewers or mock customers to see in our posters. So we wanted in a very light mood and at the same time just very simple. So how did I create it? I just started off with few shapes, and then when I started creating the cupcake or the pastry in it, I started to find colors that would match well with the main color palette we have, and then added some line arts and some few texts as well that could be um, an eye-catching phrases for the customer. So I think it works well. It's because it's what we wanted to show them that in these products that we made, it's really good that they should check it out. So I think that's the purpose of our poster, and I think it served it well. So yeah. Next, this is actually a fun art type of poster. So basically, it's for a class project that I made. So I just purely made a typical fan art of Alita. So choosing color red, I think it's because it speaks mostly about her. She's portrayed her character with passion, with her determination, and very powerful as well. If you have seen the movie, and also in situations, there are many critical and dangerous situations that could be also applied to color red. And on creating this portrait, so it's just very simple. I just followed the actual photo of where shadows should be, and then the highlights, and then I just literally played with the layers as well. So this is actually a vexel art, so it's more of a rasterized type, so I could play with this opacity of the poster. And yeah, just um, creating or making it into a different vibe for the background. So I used, I think this one is difference or exclusion that I did it in Photoshop. So yeah, just to play with the vexel art or the vector art. This one is recently made, the Willow Beast. So what I did here is I looked up into it, I researched a bit, and then I watched the movie as well. So basically, the poster has two main colors as well, a bright and a dark one. It's a gray and sort of a dark pink. It's one of the traits that this movie had. So it's basically explains on what contents does this movie had. So it speaks a lot of what happens in the story. So it's very contradicting, and it's very minimal as well. So I tried to make it into my style. At the same time, I don't want to compromise the story. One of the details that I actually consider in putting in this poster is actually it's kind of a texture and pattern type. It's because the content or the movie itself is seem to be not the actual like Disney type of animation, but it's actually like a stop motion but in an advanced option. So in the behind the scenes, so I gather the posters and some few clips from the videos, and also few certain fun arts that I got from the internet, and at the same time trying to brainstorm and really have the content and emotion put into the poster that I made, just the one in the previous slide. So next is a movie poster as well. So this one is very minimal. It's a silhouette vector art style, and then just with a bold text. So in this one, I really try to keep it simple. It's one of my personal preference. So in the setup of the poster, I just follow the one from the original, and the color I choose also from the movie itself. I use an eyedropper and pick a certain color from a scene in the movie. So in behind the scenes, these are the one that I refer to in creating the poster. So the original poster, scene from the movie, and even the book cover from the novel. So actually, if you have noticed on the previous slide, on the letter D, there's actually a check on the poster that I created. It's basically because of uh, the original cover or the original book of the story flip. So that's how I basically made it. Next, this one is actually a music poster. It's from a Korean band, and a solo track of two artists, JJP project. So it's basically about a song of career paths, or two persons getting confused. So how I created this, I basically use different colors, but often in common scheme. So to create a 3D uh, concept to this poster, I play with the colors. And for the road, as you have seen in the poster, I just basically refer it to the pictures that were that were in the music video, and it has this decreasing. I mean, it's like fading, but just getting smaller. It's because of the content of the song that it seems that their tomorrow or the decisions that they're going to make seems to be fading away, or they're still not sure of where they would actually go. So next, this poster from the movie, a movie poster as well, from Standing Up. Basically, I watched the movie as well, and in coming up with the color, I looked up to the original novel and the original book cover of it. It's basically a portrait of a person and focus on the eye, and then just around with green leaves. And the original story is actually called The Goats, and it was written by Brock Cole. So I read up in the internet of what's mostly it's about, and it's actually similar to the story, but the one in the book was a bit more tragic and like more dark concept. In the Standing Up, it's more of a hopeful one. At the same time, it's also show the dark side of the story, but at the last part of the story, it becomes brighter, and that's how I also had this gradient style in my poster. It's because the story is also about bullying, so I tend to gather or muster my emotions and put it on the poster as well. And for the fonts, I use some kind of it's an old concept of fonts, and also I try to really match it with the scenes and also the ambient of the story. So basically, I really tried to make the posters or the vector posters relevant to the music or the movie that I watch and have referred to. So in my other works, I have here two music posters and two event posters. So yeah, basically they're very different. So if you have noticed, I don't really have the certain art style or my own signature theme when it comes to creating vector arts or vector posters. So I just basically referred to the content. So if what I have heard, what I have got from that movie or from that films, music or event, then I just put into it into the poster, and what is necessary from the original ones or from what that I have read up on the internet or from the book itself. So yeah, these are basically one of the works that I have done recently, also uh, for school projects and just for personal use. And these are also my works that I combine with still images. These are also posters, music posters, event posters. Um, uh, I basically use minimal vector images on this. So still, these are posters that includes vector images or vector graphics. So I think it's also okay to try to combine them with other mediums as well, since there are a lot of variations that you can use in creating posters nowadays. So yeah, that's what I have said earlier, that it's okay to not confine yourself in genres. So you could just explore and try new and different things. So that's it. That's basically how my experience so far and creating vector posters. So an ending quote, small progress is still a progress. So no matter how you think or how you think your performance was in your output works or in creating vector posters, it's still a progress. It still need to be acknowledged as future and aspiring multimedia artists or designers. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Miss Irma Jane Alisbo, for sharing what you have experienced and learned regarding digital illustrations. From digital illustrations, now we proceed to character design. Together with Eugene Troy Manlino, he will guide us through the process.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. So, today we're going to talk about designing a character, a webinar by Eugene Troyes Manlino. So, what does character design means? So, character designs is mainly used in the context of animated films, comics, and games, in which there are one or more fictionalized characters within whom the audience is meant to identify. Why is it important? It is important, especially crucial as a story element that drives the narrative and experience of a viewer, reader, player, or user. It is meant to make interactions more familiar and help you relate to what's being presented in front of you, generating emotions and immersions. What skills do you need to be good at character designing? So first, we need the ability to draw both humans and animals, and an understanding of basic anatomy and structure for both. Audience will only fear or fall in love with a fantasy creature they can relate to. Secondly is a practical imagination. Third is the research of reference gathering. And the fourth one is the process. And lastly, traditional drawing skills. So, how do you make a strong character? First, you need to identify your character and their roles in the story. Secondly is get inside your character's head. Third one is, of course, research. And the fourth one is strong dialogue equals strong character development. And lastly, the traditional drawing skills, as always. And how do you design character? So first, we need to sketch our ideas. And creating drawings that blurry ideas, and they are really fast to make, and any types of idea that you needed to do. And secondly, mark the best ones and draw them. So the most appealing thumbnails will generally make the most appealing finals. When you scale up the title drawing, all those ideas can be more fleshed out. Take the things you love about the little ones and keep their essence strong as you drew. Third is create a variance on your second drawing. Once you've done the drawing, keep trying different variants on the character hair, clothes, accessories, skins, etc. Or you might not fall in love with just one of the version and have the mix in match for the best result. And the fourth one is think in terms of shape and designs. So shape informs the viewer. They say things like this character is sharp, or this character is round and approachable, or even this character is detailed and dangerous. Shape will permit us to access the feelings. Triangular hat or square wristband. It's all about knowing when to deploy each shape for the effect of desire. And write down or mull over the backstory. If you're feeling stuck visually, then thinking with the words that can generate more ideas. For example, in the modern druid example, I was very verbally musing and itself as well. If you can write down stats like height and weight, or even paragraph or two on the character's bio, you'll feel more assured on the picture playing. And explore the character in various other drawings. Portraits, action shots, moments, expression, all are valid ways to test the character out. Disney artists were great at this, and many anime artists have sheets of types of character drawings. Never get too attached. Be willing to start over or renovate large parts of the works. Can be the it can get to the too fuzzy at the point. But if more than willing to bet that the design will be stronger for it, don't worry about demolishing the work if you know you are not happy with it. So that's it for today, and thank you for the listening. Hope you enjoy the video, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eugene Troy Manlino, for showing us a glimpse of what character design is all about. And now, for our last speaker, we have Miss Cherubim Bariquit. She will be talking about her experience about 3D modeling.
Hello, welcome to my webinar, and I'm going to tackle about experiencing 3D modeling. So basic information about 3D. 3D modeling is a technique in computer graphics for producing a 3D digital representation of any object or surface. 3D models are used for a variety of mediums such as video games, movies, architecture, illustration, engineering, and commercial advertising. So engineers and architects use 3D to plan and design their works, while animators and game designers rely on 3D modeling to bring their ideas to life. In movies, such as in Hollywood blockbusters, they use 3D modeling for special effects to cut costs and to speed up production. So basically, 3D modeling is very essential, mostly in many creative careers. Anyway, learning 3D modeling can be quite challenging. Many of the programs are quite complicated, and good modeling principles are based on fundamental art skills, like, for example, those with experience in drawing and sculpture will have an easier time learning to model kasi they already have the fundamental art skills they need. What they need na lang is to study or to focus on how to use the software itself. But really, anyone with time and patience can really learn these skills. Just have patience when you watch tutorials or read books about how to use these 3D softwares. So, software for 3D modeling. So 3D modeling is used in various industries with different purposes. Over the years, different types of modeling software have been developed with a special focus. So it's divided into two. We have the entertainment industry and the architectural and product visualization. In the entertainment industry, software packages such as ZBrush, Mudbox, 3ds Max, Autodesk Maya, Aera, or Blender are typically used. The usability of these software packages is not limited to 3D modeling. They can also be used to do some other tasks as well, including animation, physical dynamic simulation, texturing, lighting, what else? Rendering and compositing. So yun. ZBrush here, for instance, it's a digital sculpting tool suitable for creating high-resolution 3D models used in movies or 3D animations. So it focuses more in 3D sculpting. Also, Mudbox, they're kind of the same with ZBrush. It also focuses on sculpting, So yes, and it also offers a high performance environment and professional quality tools to help create highly realistic 3D characters, environments, and props in less time. 3ds Mask, formerly known as 3D Studio, pero tinawag na siyang 3ds Max ngayon. It also has a powerful modeling capacity for 3D modeling and quite a close resemblance to AutoCAD. Kasi in video game developers, TV commercial studios, and architectural visualization studios, frequently use this software. So yun. Here, Autodesk Maya, this is somehow the the industry standard in 3D animation these days. Whether you're an amateur 3D artist or a professional animation studio, Maya is definitely one of the main software packages you need to consider working with seriously. So lastly, as a free and open source 3D modeling and animation program, Blender comes with a very strong tool set capable of creating professional high-quality assets and animations. Though it was said that Blender is a user-friendly software, however, learning Blender is quite not easy and it's considered a non-standard in the industry. So yes. So pero yes, it's still it's still user-friendly pa rin siya. So, just take time to learn it. And it's also free, unlike sa Autodesk Maya, which is may bayad siya. May bayad sa license. So, yes. So, here in architectural and product visualization, we have these four, which is the AutoCAD, Rhinoceros, SolidWorks, and SketchUp Pro. These are among popular software packages mostly used in the architecture and product visualization industries. These softwares do not provide a specific feature list provided by software packages used in the entertainment industry, but they are very accurate when it comes to product modeling using parametric solid modeling techniques. So, like SketchUp, for example. This is a powerful, popular tool boasting a user-friendly interface, making it perfect for beginners interested in 3D modeling for architectural work. So, yan. Ito rin yung usually ginagamit sa mga students sa architecture kasi sobrang dali niyang gamitin. Na-try ko na rin siya. So, ito yung mga there are also lots of 3D softwares na available. Pero ito yung mga main na ginagamit mainly. And it can also this software mentioned here, they can also be used in other industries like in medical, like pretty much of the above mentioned softwares like this one. They can also be used in medical industries like kita nyo yung sa mga parang mga medical explanations or videos, like gumagamit sila ng 3D to explain how the surgery works, parang ganun. Instead na noon na binibidyohan talaga nila yung actual nga surgery, but now they used 3D to portray or to explain in a clear vision, parang ganun. So yun. So how does 3D modeling works? So an artist usually begins by generating some type of primitive or mesh. These are the mesh, like a cube, this sphere or plane. Others are cylinder. This is a cylinder. Icosphere. This is cone. Torus. This donut one. This is circle. These dots are called vertices, and also the grid, and also monkey. This monkey is only available in Blender. Makikita mo lang siya sa Blender. Wala to sa ibang softwares like 3ds Max or sa Maya. So it's only available in Blender. So the primitive is just a starting shape to begin modeling. By the way, this is the interface of Blender. So pag i-open mo yung Blender, ito yung makikita mo. And automatic may bibigyan ka kanya ng cube. Diyan mo ito yung gagawan mo gagawan mo ng modeling. And we also have a camera here. We'll also provide you a camera and a lamp. Sa Maya, they don't have this one. Di siya automatic na nandyan. So, kailangan mo siya manually i-set up. Though, you can change this, the light, also this one, you can move this, and also you can move or change this one too. But we won't tackle that much. So, the artist will build upon this basic form and manipulate it using various modeling tools. There are lots of modeling tools, not only in Blender but also in Maya and in other 3D software. So it's good to explore those things to familiarize yourself kung gusto mo mag-aral ng 3D. And don't worry because there are lots of tutorials about it, so you can just search and learn from it. So 3D modeling is a precise workflow, often involving the painstaking placement of individual vertices to achieve the correct contours of the desired object. The exterior of the mesh is composed of polygons, which can be subdivided into smaller shapes to create more detail. These subdivisions are especially necessary if the 3D model is to be animated. So these are the subdivisions that I'm talking about. So yan siya. Yan. So, it is necessary na the topology or the subdivisions are right kasi pag i-animate mo siya, pag i-move mo siya, perfect yung pag-move niya. Walang sabit, walang maiiwan ng mga polygons, like naka-intact lahat, parang ganun. So, very smooth siya. So, make sure na tama yung pagsa-subdivide. Anyway, it's very complicated yun. So, several tools exist to speed up the modeling process. Most programs include a mirroring technique that lets the artist build a symmetrical model by only working on 1/2 or even 1/4 of the object. This is a sample of the mirroring technique. So, yeah. This is especially very useful in character design, as an artist only needs to model one side of the character and the software will mirror their work along the desired axis, creating a perfectly symmetrical object. So this is what is good about it is pwede lang isang side ang gawan mo ng model, then the software itself will automatically work on the other side. So, parang ganun lang. So, hindi ka na mamomblema sa other side. Yung current side lang ang poproblemahan mo. Parang ganun. So, it's very, easy to deal and, less time consuming. And, once the model is complete, the surface can be painted and textured. It is very important to note that textures can be used to fake surface details. In this way, an artist can make a model appear more complicated than it is. So basically, one of the very good advantages of 3D is, especially in texturing, is that you can make the fake look real. Parang Photoshop lang, parang ganun. But we're not going to tackle about texturing, so it's fine. Conclusion. Either way, 3D modeling is a very essential part of the modern digital media landscape. It is also an exciting and rewarding means of artistic self-expression. Yes, so it is very rewarding talaga and nakakagaan ng loob, lalo na't pag may natatapos kang personal project sa 3D, which is good. Napaka-rewarding talaga. Though often daunting for beginners, the growing body of tutorials and learning resources means it's never been easier to learn 3D modeling from scratch. So yes, kaya nga may tutorials kasi hindi mo siya, kahit sobrang talino mo siguro, hindi mo siya, kailangan mo talaga siya ng tutorial kasi may mga software kasi talaga na very complicated, like sa Maya, very complicated siya. But if you're patient enough to watch those tutorials and to read those books about 3D softwares, 3D modeling, or any types of 3D, it's very satisfying in the end. Now is the perfect time to get started on your own journey with modeling and bring your unique ideas to life. Yeah. So I'm going to show my works just for inspiration for wannabe noobs like me. It's konti lang siya and yung iba is school projects. So yeah, this one is a personal project. I made it in Blender. The title is Run Red, and I was just focusing on lighting here. Nag-aaral ako sa lighting dito na time. So yeah. Ito yung lumabas. Ito yung resulta ng pagsa-study ko. Next is the 100 Tori. So it was made in Blender 2. It's a school project last year. So yun. Pinagawan kami ng isang architectural building or something, and ito yung na-come up ko, which is story. So yun. Low Poly Island. So it's also a school project, and ginawa din to sa Blender. Yan. It's a very low poly. Hindi siya masyadong realistic. Konti lang yung low poly count dito. So that's why it's called low poly. And Mac Laboratory Design Proposal. It's also a school project and it was made in Blender 2, Blender. Pinagawa kami ng design ng sarili naming Mac Lab. And ito yung na-come up ko. It looks realistic kasi dahil sa lighting, I used volumetric lights to make it look real, pero hindi ko siya na-tackle. Let's focus on the modeling lang. So there. Old Man's Journey fan art. It's a game and nagustuhan ko yung game kaya ginawan ko siya ng fan art. It was also made in Blender. So yun. Ito yun siya. It's also low poly. So yan, di siya masyadong realistic. Lastly, this was made in Maya, Autodesk Maya. It's a personal project, medieval house. This was the very last project that I did in Autodesk Maya. After no, nag-switch na ako ng Blender. So, yun. Kasi masyado talaga mahirap. Masyadong mahirap para sa akin yung Maya. Pero may mga tutorials naman siya, pero konti lang. Mostly kasi sa mga tutorials sa YouTube na makikita mo is tutorials about Blender. Kasi hindi ka basta-basta makakakuha ng software sa Maya kasi may bayad yun yung license nila. So yun. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Cherubim Bariquit, for giving us a glimpse of what 3D modeling is all about. So that's it. The presentation for today is over, and I would like to thank those who finished the webinar. Thank you for your interest and drive to learn and be the recipient of our knowledge and experiences. Now we hope that this will enlighten even just in a glimpse of what Multimedia Arts program is all about and encourage more people in Mindanao to hone their artistry in whatever field they choose. Again, this is your host, Jerrald Pagaran, now signing off. Wishing you a wonderful day and sulong Mindanaoan artist!